Okay, today we're going to talk about scissors and cutting. So I just want to go over how we hold scissors and how our hands are placed. So I have a small pair of scissors, but you'll probably always see me use a bigger pair of scissors because my hands are big. So if you are smaller, definitely use a smaller pair. And so when you're thinking about cutting with your scissors, your thumb is a really, really strong digit. So your thumb is going to end up doing a lot of the work. My whole entire hand doesn't work too hard. It's my thumb that does most of the work. So I have a small hole and I have a bigger hole. And so my thumb always goes into the bigger hole. And then how many fingers you fit in doesn't really matter too much. You obviously always want 2. Sometimes you can fit 3. I probably can fit 2. Okay, so now I have my hands and my scissors. My thumb is always going to be on top. All right, and I more or less, I don't want to move my scissors unless they're going up and down like this, but my thumb is on top, and that's the one that's going. You can see how my hands stay still. It's my scissors, it's my thumb that's doing all the work. That's what's going to end up doing all the work. Okay, but the deal is that you move your paper when you cut things. So I'm just going to demonstrate. I have a couple pieces of colorful paper over here so you can see how I'm cutting. So when I cut something, I'm going to cut straight across. And so what I'm going to do is just, all I'm doing is little cuts. I never want to chop it off. If I chop it off, then I got to open it and get back inside there. And I chop it off, and then sometimes I have a little piece right there. Usually it chops off when you're all done. I always talk about, like, maybe, you know, you're not an alligator, so you're not chomping at things. You're a little mouse and you're taking little bites, little bites, little bites, little bites. And that's how we say a little cut, little cut. So if I want to do a straight line, I'm just always going to, and I'm going to turn my scissors like this so you can see. So always doing little cuts, little cuts, little cuts, little cuts, little cuts, little cuts. And at the very end, that's where I'm going to be an alligator, and I'm going to take a big bite and just chop it right off. Okay? So I'll do that facing this way. So I'm going to do little cut, little cut, little cut, little cut, little cut, little cut, and chop. And I can go a nice straight line. Now let's say that I want to cut a circle. Watch how Miss Henry does that. Okay, you ready? So I'm gonna do a little cut. So I'm gonna start off, and I'm doing just tiny little cuts, little cut, little cut. And I'm gonna move, my scissors don't move, my hand moves the paper. And as I cut, just do little cuts, little cuts, little cuts, keep on turning, little cuts. You see the paper, my hand hasn't moved too much, and there's my circle. So you can see how the little cuts definitely work. And you can cut little tiny things and just chop things up. I can try and do waves and see how I'm going back and forth, and all I'm doing is moving my paper. And as I cut little, and I close it slowly, little cuts, I can cut all sorts of shapes. Okay? So that is how we hold and we cut with our scissors. Materials you'll need today are scissors, and I have my big girl scissors, glue stick, and a magazine, and a piece of paper. You can use your sketchbook. If you have a sketchbook, you can just put it right inside there. But so magazine, glue stick, and scissors. Today, what you're gonna do is we're just gonna work on some cutting and some gluing, and we're just gonna make what is called a collage, and that's just putting a bunch of different types of paper together onto another piece of paper. What we're gonna do is we're gonna paste things right onto here. So what I did was I went through my magazine and I picked out pictures that have big spaces of color. So if you don't have colorful paper, this is a good option if someone has a magazine. So see, I have some blue and I have some green here in the leaves. I have some light blue, and if it has stuff on it, that's okay. You can use that. I have some pink or peach and some reds. And then if it's a solid, like this is a cranberry bog, I thought this would be kind of cool. It looks like it has a little bit of a texture inside it. And then I even pulled out something with a piece of food on it, and I thought that that had some pretty cool textures throughout on it. So what we're gonna do is, on these colorful pieces of paper, let's pick a shape. I'm going to stay with one shape, and what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna either take a marker or a pencil, and I'm gonna try and draw my shape, and I'm gonna work on cutting out. So I'm gonna do a circle. Circle's the hardest, whereas if I did squares, all I'm doing is just drawing a straight square. So on this first one, I'm gonna do it with a marker, but I think I'll do it with pencil. So I'm gonna do circles, because circles are hard, and I wanna practice my circles. So I just find the piece that I wanna cut my circle out of, and I just draw some circles on it. Let's see, gotta do a big circle right there. I'm gonna try and make a couple bigger ones, see if I can make some bigger ones. And again, if it gets other things in, that's okay. It's a big old green circle and a big old blue circle. I am gonna start off, I'm gonna cut out my blue circle first. And remember, I'm using my bigger scissors, so my thumb's on top, my fingers, I can fit 3 fingers into this one. My paper's gonna do my other hand's all the work. It's kind of like someone driving. This is my driving hand. This is my steady hand, and all I'm doing is just doing little cuts. And I'm gonna go right around my circle, and I'm gonna go around and around, little cut, little cut, little cut. And as you see, my scissors aren't moving unless they're going up and down, chomping at the paper. And so I'm doing little cuts, little cuts, little cuts, little cuts, little cuts, and I want to get around, and I go a little bit slower when I get to the end. So there's my first circle. Okay, I'm going to pause the video. I'm going to cut out my other circles, and I'll show you what the end piece looks like. Okay, so here we go. Here is all of my circles cut. I have them laying on my paper. So let's see what we're gonna put together with them. So, talking about glue sticks, we'll just give a quick overview. Make sure your glue cap or your glue that comes out shouldn't be pressed all the way up. We wanna keep it nice and low because we don't want it squishing out. We don't wanna ruin our glue. And I like to, if it's a big piece of paper, I like to put glue on the back of that paper and then put it down here, because sometimes it's hard for me to gauge how big that circle might be for that. And I'm gonna go around the outside of my glue, of my circle, and then I'm just gonna put a little dot in the middle. So I don't need to have a whole lot, okay? So I am going to start here. And I've decided with my circles, and you have to come up with what you're gonna create yours into, but my circles, I think I'm gonna make them into faces. So I'm gonna take these guys, and he's a bigger circle, so I might put him right up here. And you know what? I'm actually gonna overlap. I'm gonna put this one on top of him, and then my red circle, I'm gonna have this guy go down here, and then that guy, or girl, I don't know. He looks a little bit bigger, so I'm gonna put him up here. And then maybe my blue guy is, I'm gonna stick him back behind him. I peeled him up, he's still not dry yet, so I can still pick him up. So there we go. I did 2 red ones, I decided to do 2. So I'm gonna put the 2 reds right there. You could actually make a face out of them. You could cut up a bunch of different shapes. So you could do some faces. Let's put this guy on top of here. And then we'll put my last one right. I'm still gonna try, nope, I guess I'll put him over here. He was dry. I'm gonna put him just right here. I wanna push him a little bit over. There we go. Oops. I'm gonna put a little dot there, get him to stick. There we go. All right, so I've got my faces all set up. I'm gonna stop again and work on this and I'll show you the finished product. And here we go. I'm finished with all of my circle head people. I went and looked at a picture with a bunch of different faces on it. I put some bodies on it, tried to think who was in front and who was in back. I didn't do too much for it, but I could go back in, I can color it and play around with it. I just saw a line I missed, and I did draw everything with pencil, and then I went back in with it with a Sharpie. And Sharpie will work on top of magazines, and if you don't, you can always use the magazine to cut up and do little faces on. You could do one big face, so it's up to you. I hope you enjoy and have fun with this project, and I will see you next time.